Welcome to an incredible journey across the stars where survival means more than just living and victory reshapes the very order of the galaxy. This is the story of a species that refused to kneel, of a planet that would not break, and of humanity rising from ashes to command the cosmos in a universe where advanced alien empires ruled with cold indifference. They overlooked one thing: the will of humankind. This story will take you through the final hours of Earth as we knew it, through the fires of extinction and across the dark void of space where humanity would defy every law written by the strong to become stronger. This is not just about war, this is about heart, grit, and the moment destiny changed forever. If you crave powerful stories of rise from the bottom, if you love science fiction mixed with raw human determination, then this series is made for you. Subscribe now and turn on the bell icon so you never miss the moment when humanity takes the stars for its own. The first signs came from the sky. People saw strange lights over the Pacific, a shimmering veil of blue that pulsed like a heartbeat, but no satellites tracked anything, no governments confirmed anything. It was just light until it wasn't. The next day communications blacked out across entire continents. Electronics failed, then came back, scrambled, then failed again. Weather patterns twisted in impossible ways. Clouds formed geometric shapes. Wind howled in patterns and thunder struck in silence. Humanity had no answers, only fear. Then the ships came, not in swarms but as a wall stretching from horizon to horizon, black shapes moving silently above Earth as if surveying their next meal. The world united in confusion and panic. Then came the voice, broadcasted through every screen, every speaker, every mind, a voice not heard but felt, a message from something far beyond human comprehension. It said simply, "You have been evaluated, your purpose is concluded, prepare." No one understood at first, but it became clear the visitors were not here to talk, negotiate, or learn. They were here to wipe Earth clean. Humanity was deemed obsolete by something ancient, something powerful that moved through galaxies, harvesting resources, eliminating resistance, and resetting worlds. Humanity was next. Major cities disappeared within hours, not bombed, not burned, just gone as if sliced from existence. Air support failed within minutes. Modern weapons didn't scratch the surface of those massive black ships, and worse, the things they unleashed on the ground defied science. Towering creatures with shifting forms and no eyes that moved like shadows and tore tanks in half like toys. But the story does not end there. Humanity does not end there. While governments collapsed and militaries fell, while billions screamed and vanished, something else stirred among the survivors. A stubborn pulse in the human soul ignited. In the ruins of Colorado, a small group of engineers and scavengers salvaged something from a downed alien craft, a piece of their biotech pulsing, still alive. The world was ending, and they were cracking open alien DNA with bare hands. In Nairobi, survivors banded together not to hide but to fight, turning alien weapons against their makers, learning with frightening speed how to use tech built to be beyond them. In rural China, an old farmer and his granddaughter began building machines from scrap, guided by dreams they claimed were sent by Earth itself, as if the planet had chosen its champions. And across every continent whispers began to spread: we can hurt them, we can fight them, we are not finished. The invaders underestimated one thing: the human refusal to die quietly, the stubborn drive to adapt, to overcome, to claw and climb and spit in the face of annihilation. That was the first mistake the aliens made. They thought humans were weak, scattered, disorganized. They forgot evolution does not happen in peace, it happens in fire and blood and desperation. By the time the first alien commander fell on the edge of the Amazon rainforest, brought down by a weapon made of bone metal and sheer rage, it was already too late. The virus of resistance had spread. Humanity was no longer prey. They were becoming something else. The first confirmed alien kill changed everything. It happened in the Amazon jungle, where thick canopy and swamp had slowed the invaders' advance. Unlike the open cities and highways where alien machines moved with terrifying speed, the forest resisted with tangled roots and ancient storms. For the survivors hiding in its shadows, that resistance was their first ally. A young woman named Liana had once been a biology student. She had never fired a weapon before the invasion. She had never held anything more dangerous than a microscope, but now she led a group of 24 hardened survivors armed with steel rebar, sharpened wood, and a few stolen alien blades. They had learned the hard way that alien drones bled silver and that their tissue burned when touched with iron. They had learned how to track them by the hum in the air, the way the trees leaned away from them, how the birds stopped singing moments before a patrol arrived. When Liana stabbed her makeshift spear into the heart of an alien drone, it spasmed and released a burst of electrical energy that killed 2 of her companions instantly. But the drone fell and it stayed down, and when they pried it open and studied its core, they realized it was more organic than mechanical. The invaders were not robots, not machines, not truly. They were something else: biotech, living armor, grown, not built. Liana took the pulsing black eye from the drone and wore it around her neck like a pendant. It whispered to her not in words but in feelings, urging her to move east, to higher ground, to mountains where others like her were gathering. Across the globe similar events unfolded. In North America, a boy named Marcos who had once been obsessed with video games now led a squad of former mechanics and teachers using hover skiffs stolen from a downed alien transport in Istanbul. Survivors tunneled beneath the ancient city, building a growing network of resistance fighters who communicated by vibrations through walls rather than traceable sound. In the remnants of old Tokyo, a blind man named Kenji was able to walk freely through alien patrols completely unseen, his mind tuned to something deeper. The aliens didn't see him, couldn't touch him. He became a ghost walking through death and whispering secrets to survivors he met before vanishing again. The invaders began to notice the eradication that was supposed to take days had stretched into weeks, then months. Resistance was evolving, growing intelligent, unified, without a leader but with a shared rage and fire. They attempted to adapt, increasing the number of patrols, deploying new horrors with larger limbs and thicker armor. They targeted suspected resistance zones with scorched earth tactics. They vaporized entire regions, hoping to eliminate the infection of hope. But hope is a virus. Once released, it cannot be contained. It was in Greenland that the next breakthrough came. A team of scientists who had taken shelter in an old Cold War station had discovered something buried beneath the ice, a relic, not human, not alien, something ancient, predating either one of the scientists. Dr. Amari believed it was a weapon left by a forgotten species who had fought these same invaders long ago before going extinct. They began decoding its structure, and what they learned changed everything. The aliens had come before, not just to Earth, but to other planets, other civilizations. All had fallen and been erased from memory except this. This remnant was not just a weapon, it was a memory, a blueprint left behind so that the next victims could have a chance. Using their limited resources and the alien tech they had scavenged, Dr. Amari and her team began building something that could fight on equal terms, a hybrid weapon forged from human will and alien flesh. Meanwhile, Earth itself seemed to respond. Volcanoes erupted in unnatural patterns, magnetic storms pulsed across continents, disrupting alien coordination and shielding human movements. There were even reports of animals attacking invaders in coordinated strikes, packs of wolves flanking armored bipeds, birds slamming into their optics, swarms of insects overwhelming scouts. Some claimed the planet was awakening, using every tool at its disposal to fight back. It was no longer just a resistance, it was a war, a real war, and humanity was learning how to win. At a former underground missile base in Kazakhstan, a coalition of survivors led by former astronauts, engineers, and rogue AI researchers completed construction of the first true human-alien hybrid combat suit. It was powered by an alien core wrapped in human metal, guided by a neural interface that required no training, just desire. The first time they activated it, the suit responded like a beast, leaping forward, tearing through steel walls before falling into silence. But once bonded with a pilot, it became something else, a predator, a symbol. They called it Project Fong, and its first mission was to retake a communications satellite array to reach out to other survivors across the world, to coordinate for the first time since the collapse. The mission was brutal. The sky was full of storm and fire and death, but Fong moved through it with primal fury. The pilot, a woman named Nora, had once been a linguist. She had never held a weapon either, but inside the suit she was death incarnate. When she returned, the satellite array pulsed with light, broadcasting a single signal to the world in every language that still survived. "We are not extinct, we are fighting, join us." Across the globe, survivors who had hidden for months began to rise up. Outposts activated, beacons flared. The war entered its second phase. And the invaders made their second mistake. They had come to cleanse the planet, to destroy a species they had assumed humanity would resist, then die. But humanity had done what no other species had ever done. It had fought back, it had adapted, it had turned their own weapons against them. Now Earth was no longer just a target, it was a threat. And the galaxy would soon learn what happens when you push humans too far. The first time a human fleet took to the stars, the invaders barely registered it as a threat. They had underestimated the power of humanity's collective genius. In desperation, the human fleet was small, only a few dozen ships retrofitted with alien technology scavenged from battlefields and old wrecks. But those ships were fast and deadly, and they were armed with weapons unlike anything the aliens had ever seen before. The fleet's first mission was simple: strike hard and fast, hit the invaders where they were weakest. Earth's survivors had already gained access to alien data on ship structures, navigation systems, and weaknesses. Human ingenuity had turned alien weaponry against the very creatures that had wielded it for millennia. Led by a man named Marcus Blake, a former military strategist turned resistance leader, the human fleet moved in secret. The first strike came at a remote mining station on the outskirts of an alien-controlled star system where the invaders had taken control of rare resources. Once a rich human colony, now a barren wasteland. Marcus and his team had a simple objective: disrupt the alien supply chain. What followed was nothing short of a spectacle. When Marcus and his fleet arrived, they hit with the precision of a strike team rather than a fleet of warships. The alien station didn't even have time to activate its defenses before the human ships tore through the structure's walls with plasma cannons and electromagnetic pulses. The invaders fought back with fury, but they couldn't adjust quickly enough to the human tactics the aliens were used to, crushing worlds under their feet. But against the humans, they were forced to adapt, and quickly. The success of the operation sent shockwaves through both the alien empire and the human resistance. The humans had struck first. They had won their first battle in the stars, and it had been at the heart of the invaders' supply lines. The question no one had dared ask before now was whispered among survivors across the earth: could humanity win this war? It was a question Marcus Blake had been asking himself since the first alien ship had arrived in Earth's skies. He had seen the destruction of cities and the fall of governments. He had witnessed the deaths of billions, but even in those darkest moments he had believed that humanity's potential was greater than its enemies had realized. What had been forgotten was that the greatest strength of humanity was its ability to adapt and its desire to survive no matter the odds. Humans could find a way. As the fleet's victories continued to stack up, the invaders began to take notice. They sent larger ships, more soldiers, and deadly bioengineered weapons, but the humans were ready. As soon as the aliens thought they had the upper hand, the humans shifted strategies again. They used guerrilla tactics, ambushes, and sabotage to strike the invaders where they least expected. The human resistance also took the war to new frontiers. They attacked alien ships in deep space far from Earth, using their knowledge of alien systems to turn the invaders' own ships into traps. The humans utilized advanced stealth technology to infiltrate and disable enemy craft, neutralizing them before they could even launch a counterattack. Earth had become a hub of innovation, and the invaders were slowly being forced onto the defensive. Back on Earth, a new unity emerged. The disparate factions that had once fought for control of the planet's remaining resources now united under a single banner. They no longer saw themselves as separate nations but as a united human race fighting for the survival of the species. The concept of borders had fallen away, replaced by a singular goal to retake Earth and push the invaders out of the galaxy. Survivors across the world worked together to create a global network of resistance, with underground bunkers and hideouts that extended deep into the Earth's crust. Every piece of alien technology was reverse-engineered, and every scrap of data collected from fallen ships was used to advance humanity's ability to fight back. Technology was no longer something humans used, it had become part of them, integrated into their biology, their systems, and their warfare. But as humanity's power grew, so did the desperation of the invaders. They had never encountered a species that fought back with such tenacity. With every new loss, their resolve hardened and their tactics became more ruthless. They launched a full-scale assault on Earth, deploying their most lethal weapons and troops to break the human will. Once again, humanity was on the defensive. The battle for Earth reached a boiling point when the invaders deployed their ultimate weapon, an immense biomechanical beast that could level entire cities in seconds. It was a creature of nightmare, part alien, part machine, and it tore through the human defenses like a force of nature. Humanity's cities fell before its advance, and the survivors once again retreated underground, hoping to regroup and rebuild. But they had underestimated one thing: their own capacity to adapt, to survive. In the heart of a war-ravaged New York City, a team of survivors led by a former scientist named Elena discovered something that could change the course of the war. A hidden lab beneath the city contained experimental technology that had been developed before the invasion. A set of nanobots capable of reprogramming alien technology on a molecular level. Elena and her team had found the key to infiltrating and disabling the invaders' biomechanical weapon. The nanobots were humanity's last hope, a weapon that could disable the invaders' most deadly creations by rewriting their very DNA and molecular structure. In a world on the brink of destruction, it was the kind of breakthrough humanity needed. Elena and her team worked feverishly, knowing that time was running out. They had to deploy the nanobots before the biomechanical monster reached the human stronghold at the edge of the city. But as they prepared for the final assault, a terrible realization struck. The nanobots had to be released close to the beast to be effective, and that meant putting a team on the front lines to deliver the payload. The decision was made. Elena herself would be the one to lead the team into the heart of the enemy's lines to deploy the nanobots. She knew the risks but also knew the importance of their mission. If humanity was to survive, if Earth was to survive, she had to make this sacrifice. The battle that followed was like nothing the humans had experienced before. The team fought their way through alien-controlled streets, dodging enemy fire and advancing against overwhelming odds. Finally, at the heart of the invaders' forces, Elena and her team deployed the nanobots, watching as the mechanical beast began to seize and collapse under the weight of its reprogrammed molecular structure. The creature fell like a giant tree, its roars echoing through the city as it crumbled to the ground. In the final moments of its life, the nanobot spread through its body like a plague, disabling the invaders' most powerful weapon. It was a turning point in the war. Humanity had won the first real victory against the invaders on their own soil. The fight was far from over, but the invaders knew that humanity was no longer an easy target. They had awakened something within the human spirit that no alien force could break. The war for Earth was just beginning, and now humanity would fight not just for survival but for supremacy over the galaxy. The victory in New York was more than just a tactical success. It was a symbol of humanity's defiance and strength. It sent a clear message to the invaders. We are no longer weak, we are no longer prey. The humans had successfully disabled the biomechanical monster, but the battle had taken a heavy toll. The city was in ruins, and countless lives had been lost, yet there was no time for mourning or celebration. The war had entered a new phase and humanity needed to regroup. While the survivors mourned their dead, the rest of the world was waking up to a new reality. The global resistance had grown stronger than ever before, with factions from all corners of the Earth coming together under one cause. The human race was now united not just in survival but in purpose. They were no longer scattered remnants, they were a force to be reckoned with. Humanity's first offensive in space had been a resounding success, but the invaders were far from defeated. They still controlled vast stretches of the galaxy, and their reach extended beyond Earth's borders. They had underestimated humanity's resilience, but they would soon learn that humans would not stop until their world, and their species, was free. Marcus Blake, the leader of the human fleet, knew that the tide of the war had shifted, but the real battle was still ahead. The aliens had regrouped, their massive warships now lining the edges of the galaxy, preparing for a final assault on Earth. But the humans weren't waiting for them to strike first, they were going on the offensive. In the heart of the human fleet, aboard the command ship Victory, Marcus and his officers worked tirelessly to prepare for the next stage of the war. They had already begun deploying human-led fleets to strike against alien-controlled sectors, targeting weak points in the invaders' supply lines and taking the fight to their homeworlds. Marcus knew that taking the war to the invaders' homeworlds was the key to victory. If they could cripple the invaders' ability to launch reinforcements from their home systems, Earth might have a chance at survival. They had the technology now, the weapons, the knowledge. But there was one more obstacle to overcome: the alien hive mind. The invaders were not a collection of individuals fighting for control of the galaxy. They were a unified consciousness, a hive mind that linked every soldier, every machine, every piece of their empire into one centralized brain. With this collective intelligence they could adapt to any threat before it even appeared. They were more than just soldiers, they were a single organism, driven by a singular goal: to assimilate or eliminate every other species they encountered. To defeat the invaders, humanity had to find a way to sever the connection between their forces and their hive mind. Without it, the invaders would always be one step ahead, no matter what weapons or tactics humanity used. The search for a solution led Marcus and his team to a former research facility deep beneath the surface of Antarctica. It was a place that had once been a top-secret human operation, studying the potential for intergalactic communication and understanding alien biology. When the war began, the facility had been abandoned, but now it was humanity's last hope. Inside the frozen depths of the research base, a team of scientists led by Dr. Amari uncovered something astonishing. They discovered that the invaders' hive mind was not invulnerable. It had a central nexus, a core of immense power and intelligence that could be disrupted if the right conditions were met. The nexus was hidden on the invaders' homeworld, but the humans had the technology to breach it. The plan was risky but essential: launch a full-scale invasion of the invaders' homeworld, strike deep into the heart of their hive mind and destroy it. Once the nexus was severed, the alien forces would be rendered blind and disorganized, making them vulnerable to humanity's attacks. But the invasion would be unlike anything humanity had ever attempted before. The alien homeworld was heavily fortified, its atmosphere saturated with electromagnetic fields that disrupted human technology. Ships couldn't approach undetected. The very air itself was hostile to human life. To overcome this, humanity would need to rely on something they had learned through their countless battles on Earth: the power of adaptation and ingenuity. They would have to build new ships that could function within the alien atmosphere, using reverse-engineered alien tech to create cloaking devices and shields that could protect against the electromagnetic fields. They would have to become ghosts in the galaxy. It wasn't just about technological advancement, it was about evolution. Humanity had learned to use the environment to its advantage, to turn every obstacle into an opportunity. Every defeat had led to new knowledge, new capabilities. Humanity's survival instincts had been honed and sharpened to a point where they could face the greatest threat the universe had ever seen and emerge victorious. The decision was made: the invasion of the alien homeworld would begin. Marcus Blake would lead the fleet himself, and the assault would be carried out under the cover of stealth. They had one chance to get it right, and there would be no second chances. The day the invasion fleet launched, it was unlike anything humanity had ever witnessed. The sky above Earth shimmered with the brilliance of dozens of ships soaring into the unknown, Cloaked and prepared for the fight of their lives, the human fleet was not just a collection of warships, it was a symbol of everything humanity had fought for. From the survivors in the trenches to the scientists developing groundbreaking weapons, the fleet was the embodiment of Earth's final defiance. As the ships traveled across space, the vast emptiness around them seemed to swallow them whole, but they pressed on, with unwavering resolve, guided by a single goal: destroy the Nexus and cripple the invaders once and for all. The journey was perilous, with countless obstacles along the way, from ambushes by alien patrols to treacherous asteroid fields that threatened to destroy entire ships at a moment's notice. But the human fleet was different now. It was more than just a collection of survivors, it was a force unified by a single purpose, a collective will that could not be broken. When they reached the alien homeworld, the battle began. The fleet emerged from the shadows like a storm, descending on the planet with unstoppable force. The invaders attempted to retaliate but found their efforts futile. The human fleet had evolved beyond anything they could have imagined. The alien defenses, once so invincible, faltered as human ingenuity tore through them. But the true battle lay ahead, in the heart of the enemy's capital city, where the hive mind's nexus was located. Humanity's last assault had begun, and there would be no turning back now. The invasion of the alien homeworld was humanity's most audacious move yet, but it was also their most calculated. The fleet had made its way past the first line of alien defense systems, which had once seemed impenetrable. Now humanity was deep within enemy territory and closing in on the central nexus of the alien hive mind. But the real challenge lay ahead: the alien capital city where the nexus was hidden. The city was a labyrinth of dark spires and metallic streets, its towering architecture designed to intimidate rather than inspire. It was a place of sterile efficiency where the invaders' collective intelligence pulsed through every building, every street corner. Every movement of the city seemed coordinated, a reflection of the hive mind that controlled it. But it was also a place where the invaders' arrogance had grown, where they believed their superiority would protect them. Marcus Blake and his fleet were not intimidated. They had already won the battle for Earth. They had already faced the worst the invaders had thrown at them and lived to fight another day. Their resolve had been tested and proven. They were no longer the underdogs of the galaxy. They were humanity, adaptable, relentless, and driven by a single mission: to win. As the fleet descended into the heart of the alien capital, the first wave of ground troops disembarked. They were human soldiers trained in the harshest conditions and equipped with the best weapons humanity had developed since the war began. They were armed with hybrid technology, alien weapons turned against their creators and modified by human engineers to maximize their deadly potential. These were not just soldiers, they were the vanguard of a new era for humankind. The streets of the alien capital were eerily quiet as the human forces moved forward, their footsteps echoing on the cold metallic floors of the city's corridors. The invaders knew the humans were coming. They had already launched their own counteroffensive, but their tactics were far from effective against a species that could adapt as quickly as humanity. Their moves were predictable. With each building that fell to the human forces, the resistance grew stronger. Soon the survivors from all over the galaxy began to rally behind them. As the battle raged, the invaders' coordinated movements began to falter. Without the hive mind's constant guidance, the alien forces were disoriented and confused. Their once perfect synchronization was breaking down. In the heart of the city, Marcus and his team made their way toward the hive mind's core, a massive, pulsating structure that lay at the center of the capital. It was here that the invaders' intelligence was housed, the center of their empire, the source of their unity and power. But as they approached the core, they encountered a new kind of threat: an elite group of alien warriors, genetically enhanced and imbued with the hive mind's collective knowledge. These were not ordinary soldiers, they were the apex of the invaders' forces, their final defense. The humans fought through waves of these enhanced warriors with fierce determination. Every blow was a reminder of everything humanity had sacrificed to reach this point. Every step forward was earned with blood, sweat, and the will to survive. Marcus and his team pressed on, knowing that failure meant the end of everything they had worked for. The final battle for the hive mind's nexus was a brutal one. Marcus stood at the forefront, leading his team toward the heart of the enemy's stronghold. His mind was sharp, but his body was weary. Every inch of ground was paid for in blood, but they were close. They could feel the alien presence growing stronger as they neared the core. At the core of the hive mind's nexus, an alien entity stood, its form a grotesque fusion of biological and technological components. It was the embodiment of the invaders' collective intelligence, the entity that had led their conquest across the galaxy. It was a being of unimaginable power and ruthlessness, but it was also vulnerable. Marcus and his team had prepared for this moment. Their weapons were designed to disrupt the hive mind's hold on the alien forces, to sever the connection that linked them all together. They launched a coordinated attack on the entity, targeting its core with every ounce of strength they had left. The fight was intense. The alien entity fought back with every weapon at its disposal, but the humans had learned from every battle, every loss. They had adapted their weapons, cut through the entity's defenses, disabling its bioorganic shields and exposing its central core. In the final moments of the battle, Marcus Blake faced the entity alone as the others fought off the remaining alien forces. He approached the Nexus, the heart of the hive mind, and delivered the fatal blow with a weapon unlike anything the invaders had ever seen. A hybrid device that combined human ingenuity with alien technology. The entity writhed and screamed as its mind was torn apart piece by piece. The moment the Nexus was destroyed, the entire alien network collapsed. The invaders' forces fell into chaos. No longer connected to the hive mind, they were disoriented, vulnerable, and easily picked off by the human fleet. But Marcus knew this victory was just the beginning. The invaders might have lost their central intelligence, but their empire stretched across countless worlds and stars. The battle for Earth was won, but the war for the galaxy was far from over. Humanity had proven its strength, its resilience, its ability to survive and adapt, but now they had to prove that they could win on a larger scale. The alien empire was shattered but not eradicated. Their forces would regroup and rebuild, but humanity had learned a crucial lesson: nothing in the galaxy could stand against a species that could adapt and evolve in the face of adversity. With the destruction of the hive mind, humanity had struck a decisive blow, but the galaxy was still a vast and dangerous place. There would be more battles to fight, more enemies to face, more worlds to reclaim, but for the first time in history humanity knew that they were not simply survivors, they were the future of the galaxy. Marcus Blake stood at the heart of the alien capital, gazing out over the shattered city. He had led humanity to this moment, but he knew the work was far from done. The war was not over yet, but one thing was certain: the galaxy had underestimated humans for too long. They had come to Earth to conquer a primitive species. They had failed. Now humanity would take its place as the new apex species of the galaxy. The fight was far from over, but humanity would never stop until every corner of the galaxy was free and every species had learned the lesson they had learned the hard way: never underestimate humanity. The destruction of the alien hive mind sent ripples across the galaxy, shaking the very foundations of the invaders' empire. For the first time since the war began, the invaders found themselves facing true uncertainty. Their once unified forces had been torn apart by the loss of their central consciousness. Without it, their tactical coordination was in chaos. The invaders' homeworld had fallen, and with it, their greatest weapon. The human fleet took full advantage of the disarray in the invaders' ranks as the enemy forces scrambled to reassemble. Humanity's forces launched an all-out offensive, sweeping through alien-controlled sectors like a storm, cutting down their defenses. One by one cities fell, and resistance was obliterated. Each victory brought humanity closer to complete dominance over the alien empire, but no one could afford to relax. Yet the fight was far from over. Marcus Blake, standing at the helm of humanity's fleet, understood that this victory, while monumental, was only a step in the long road ahead. With the loss of the hive mind, the invaders were leaderless but not powerless. The galaxy was vast, and the alien forces still controlled entire star systems stretching far beyond the reach of the human fleet. Humanity had taken the first crucial step, but now it was time to press on to ensure that the invaders could never rebuild their forces. The rebuilding process on Earth had begun in earnest. The world, though scarred, was beginning to heal. As the survivors emerged from the bunkers and underground cities, they found a new purpose: rebuilding the planet not just to survive but to thrive. Humanity had taken its first steps into the galactic stage, but now the true work of defending and securing their place as the galaxy's new rulers was in motion. The world governments that had once fallen to the alien invaders were now reorganized under a single banner, a global alliance that extended beyond national borders, uniting all of humanity into one unified force. Under this new order, the military and scientific communities worked hand in hand to advance the technology that would allow humans to maintain their newfound supremacy. On Earth, the innovations developed during the war were now being put to good use. Reverse-engineered alien technology was being integrated into humanity's daily life, while new spacefaring ships were built using alien alloys and propulsion systems. The next phase of humanity's expansion into the galaxy was already underway, but as the human fleets prepared for the next phase of the war, they also had to prepare for the consequences of their rapid rise. Back in the heart of the galaxy, the remnants of the invaders' empire began to regroup. The aliens were no longer the unified force they once were, but their sheer numbers were still a formidable threat. In the wake of their defeat, new factions emerged, some bent on revenge, some seeking to form alliances with other galactic powers, and others simply attempting to flee the shattered empire. The vacuum left by the fall of the hive mind had opened the door for new enemies to emerge. Those who had been subjugated by the invaders and long forced into servitude saw humanity's rise as an opportunity to seize power for themselves. Some species who had been allies to the invaders joined forces with humanity, eager to rid the galaxy of the tyrannical force they had once supported. Others, however, began to see humanity's rise as a challenge to their own supremacy, and they decided to test humanity's resolve. Among these new enemies was a ruthless alien warlord known only as Carves. He was a being of unmatched cruelty, a leader of one of the most powerful war bands in the galaxy, and he had seen the fall of the Invader Empire as a chance to reclaim his lost honor. As the remnants of the alien invader army began to regroup under his leadership, Carves and his forces posed a significant threat to humanity's fledgling empire. Marcus Blake knew that with the invaders' hive mind destroyed, a new era was beginning, but it was not going to be an era of peace. Humanity had drawn the attention of other galactic powers, both allies and enemies alike, and they would have to prove their strength time and again. As Carves gathered his forces, he sought out powerful weapons and alliances that could match the human technological advancements. As he forged a path of destruction across the galaxy, he began to threaten the borders of human-occupied space. Marcus knew that this new adversary would test humanity's limits. Carves was not just any warlord, he was a master tactician with vast resources at his disposal. In the meantime, humanity's fleets moved forward, preparing for the inevitable conflict with the alien threat. Now splintered and no longer under a single hive mind, humanity had the advantage, but that advantage would mean nothing if they couldn't maintain their unity and adapt quickly to the new challenges that the galaxy would throw at them. Humanity's ability to adapt had been proven time and again, but now it would be tested as never before. The fleet assembled in high orbit over Earth, ready to face the new alien threat. The war with the invaders had ended, but the galaxy had no intention of letting humanity rest on its laurels. The rise of human dominance in the galaxy had sent shockwaves across the stars, and those who had once looked down on humanity now saw them as a threat to their own power. As Carves' warband began raiding human colonies on the outer edges of human space, humanity's resolve was once again put to the test. This time, however, they would not face the invaders alone. They had made allies of the species that had been subjugated by the invaders, and now they stood by humanity's side, ready to fight back and ensure that humanity would not fall to the chaos that threatened to overrun the galaxy. The next chapter in humanity's rise to the top of the galactic food chain was about to begin, but the price of this new dominance would be paid in blood. In the heart of the human fleet, Marcus stood resolute. He had led humanity through its darkest days, but now he knew that the real battle was just beginning. The galaxy was a vast and dangerous place, and the warlord Carves was just the first of many challenges humanity would face. But there was no doubt in Marcus's mind that humanity would rise to the occasion. Humanity's true test had arrived, and this time, they would not just survive, they would conquer the stars.